Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad podcast with Chris Finn, a production of P4S Golf. Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. I'm your host, Chris Finn, and I'm here today, actually honored here today to be with one of the legends of teachers in the game, Bryan Gathright. And for those of you who are top 100 teachers, he also, and this is a pretty impressive award, but in 2020, the Harvey Penick Teacher of the Year Award as well. So this guy, and there's many more, but in the interest of trying to keep this under 30 minutes, I won't go through every one of his accolades, but we're so excited to have you here, Bryan. Thanks so much for being here. And welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad.
Chris, it's a pleasure, and thank you very much. I will be honest with you. I'm, as I told you prior to us going on, I'm probably the worst person on our entire team to be doing this because I don't run our fitness program. My son Hunter does, and Arthur Robinson over in our Houston-based location at Sweetwater and Sugarland. But Hunter just moved over here with me, and they're getting ready to have a baby. So I'm going to be a grandfather again here pretty soon. I'm really excited about that. But you mentioned the Harvey Penick Award, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say a couple of things just for a second. I had the good fortune back in the early 90s. I actually was Harvey Penick's original director of instruction. I worked side by side with Harvey for about 3 years before he passed away. And every time I get an opportunity to speak to anyone about the game of golf, there are two people that I always have to credit my ability to be able to do that. One of them, obviously, Harvey Penick, and he took an amazing interest in me and gave me the opportunity to do what I do. And going way back into the 70s, I had the good fortune to play 2 years of junior college football as a place kicker for a true legend in junior college coaching, a gentleman named Harold Hearn, who just coincidentally retired and lives in San Antonio now. And someone that taught me it was okay to not treat everybody the same, not try to make everybody do the same thing, and that's one of the great lessons. I didn't realize I was learning it at the time, but I did. And Coach Hearn's been an incredible influence on me. And so I do go back to a lot of time spent in the weight room, a lot of time spent in the gym, and understand the importance of it. And I'm probably what you would say in your world, I'm just knowledgeable enough to be dangerous. Okay.
It sounds like me in the instruction world, except probably not as knowledgeable as you in the fitness world. But yeah, I always love when we have an amazing guest on, and the first thing is they say that they're the worst one on their team. To me, that's always a sign of true greatness, great leadership, and another reason why I'm excited to have you here. But Bryan, I think one of the reasons that I wanted to start doing this pod, and the reasons why P4S Golf we try to do kind of the educational side, is really trying to find people like yourself who are in the instructional world, who understand the technical side, but also see the value of the fitness side of things and be able to connect for listeners. I think a lot of times golfers don't necessarily draw those connections of how the body impacts what you can do in the golf swing. And I think there's always a unique perspective when you have an instructor, somebody who's like tried to get somebody to swing in to out when they don't rotate or move in any way, shape, or form possible to do so. Or whatever the thing is that they come in trying to do because they think that's what they need to do. I would just love to hear and share with the listeners kind of a little bit about the journey that you've had through your career and how you've gotten to the point where you are so in tune with the body and its impacts in terms of what golfers can and can't do or should and shouldn't be doing.
Well, a couple of things. And one of the things that I go back, I've been so blessed, and I look back to my time with Harvey and also, since then, I've had some amazing players. I was very fortunate. A gentleman showed up on my door because of a mutual friend back in the late 90s, Nota Begay, and Nota reached out and asked, could he come watch me teach one day? And, Chris, most people, when they hear that, you would think, okay, he'll probably show up, watch a couple of lessons, maybe ask a question or two. And Nota was there when I got there that morning. and I'm still kind of a dinosaur in the industry. I go at it really hard. I teach all day, every day. And Noda got there, and I think I started then. Now I start at 7. Then I started, I think, at 8 o'clock. And he stayed literally all day long. He did go get something to eat around lunch and came back. And at the end of the day, long story short, he asked me to watch him hit a few balls. He was doing some of the Mo Norman stuff at that point in time, had the 10-finger grip, which I didn't change initially. It's probably why he didn't run for the hills and not come back. But anyway, not to go through his entire career, but that was in 1997. I've worked with him for about an hour and a half, probably that late that afternoon, almost until dark. Didn't hear from him for 3 months.
Wow.
That was kind of the typical kind of deal with Noda. And then 3 months later, he called me and asked, could I come to Albuquerque? And I flew out to Albuquerque, worked with him for 3 days out there, and then didn't hear from him for another 2 or 3 months. And at that point in time, he had gotten conditional status on what was then the Nike Tour, which now the Korn Ferry Tour. And he called me right after that, and he goes, hey, I've really been doing what we're working on, and I'd love for you to be my coach. And we talked for a minute, and I said, well, I want to make sure that we have the same idea of what a coach is, because if this is what we've been doing, I don't think I'm your guy. But and we've got an amazing relationship, and I consider him one of my absolute dearest friends. Even till this day, I was actually texting back and forth with him on Sunday about something. But a long story short, that year was magical in that Noda shot 59, and I'm very proud to say at this point in time now, there have been 9 rounds of 59 on the Korn Ferry / Nike Nationwide Tour. And I happen to have coached 2 of those players. Mac Meister, cool. He did it this past year and has his PGA Tour card now. But anyway, long story short with Noda got his card that year by finishing second 4 times on the Nike Tour. And then over the next 11 months, he won 4 times on the PGA Tour. It was one of the most rapid rises to success. He was 18th in the world. And all of that kind of came to a crashing halt in the winter of 2000 after he had made the President's Cup team. He had won 4 times. He had beat Retief Goosen in the singles in the President's Cup. He and Tiger had beaten Ernie and Vijay twice. And, the world, he had the world by the tail. That year in the majors, he finished 38th at the Masters, 22nd at the U.S. Open at Pebble, 18th at the Open Championship at St. Andrews, and then had to top 10 to make the President's Cup team. I've always respected Captain Venturi that year. Ken Venturi was the captain. And on Tuesday, he pulled Noda aside and said, Noda, you don't have international experience. I'm just going to tell you, you're going to have to make the team on your own. I'm not going to give you a captain's pick. Wow. And although Noda didn't really like it at that point in time, because Tiger was really lobbying for him, I respected Ken for doing that with him. And he walked back over to the range after the conversation. I knew something was wrong. And he looked at me and he goes, no, we're okay. I got to get it done. And to make enough points to do that, he had to top 10 that week, and he birdied 17, 18 on Sunday to finish 8th. And needless to say, that walk up the hill behind the 18th green at Valhalla was pretty special for both of us.
I can only imagine.
And, that December, he tore 2 discs between L4 and L5 and L5 and S1 with a weight belt on doing a deadlift in the gym. And to this day, it really hadn't affected his golf swing. He still swings at it as well as ever. Yeah. The problem is when he was trying to play at that point in time, the walking was killing him.
Yeah.
And if he played the Pro-Am on Wednesday, which you had to do, by Thursday and Friday, by the end of the day on Friday, I mean, it was almost impossible for him to finish because his back would completely lock up. So needless to say, he and Tiger worked out a ton. I got to witness a lot of that. Like I said, I told you before we went on, I've seen a lot more in the gym than I probably have done, but my background coming all the way back to football, growing up in Texas, we spent a lot of time in the gym doing some things right and a lot of things wrong. But my son, Hunter Gathright, kind of led me on this journey several years ago. He's always, since early on in his life, had a passion for the body and understanding movement, and really he's a level 3 certified TPI trainer.
Mm-hmm.
He studied under David Weck and did that for a long time with the Weck method, but he actually had 2 degenerative disc in his back and had a back episode in his mid-20s. And he sought out the guys with GOTA, and there was a guy named Gil Bosch, Jose Bosch, who was not a fitness guy, just knew he was having a terrible time with his back. He'd studied under Pete Agoscu and had done a lot just to help himself get better. And this was in the day of the old big video cameras and VCR and VHS tapes. And he just set his camera up in front of the TV and would video anything that in movement. And one of the things that he discovered watching a basketball game one day, he saw Michael Jordan make a move, a crossover move, and he noticed something. And I'm going to share a story that I picked up something the other day, just fast forwarding through a golf telecast that we'll talk about in just a minute. But the interesting thing is when he went back and looked at it, he then turned the camera on himself coming down the hallway and tried to make the same move. And he noticed that his foot moved in the opposite direction when he did the crossover that Michael Jordan's move did. And Gil started studying at that point in time all the greats that basically had remained non-contact injury free throughout their career, studying guys' movement patterns, their walking, their running, their gait, with people that had not basically been injured through non-contact. There's nothing you can do in football about, somebody blowing out a knee on you, but the non-contact issues. And they noticed a similarity in movement. And one of the things that when my son came to me after and like I said, this had been years through, he had done a bunch with TPI, he had done a bunch with David Weck. When he started initially with the GOTA guys, he really immersed himself in it, had a passion for it. And the thing that I'll never forget this conversation. He asked me, he said, Dad, he said, do you think Brooks Koepka is a really good athlete? And I said, well, here's what I'll tell you. I think if you divided, if Brooks Koepka was one of 12 guys and you were picking sides, he's going to be first pick. And then you can tell me what sport we're playing. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And Hunter made the comment, he goes, well, how come he can't stay healthy? And one of the things that we overlook in golf, and I do it quite regularly. I just got back from San Diego, a couple of weeks ago, was out there for the tour event. And, as a coach in practice rounds, I'm walking 17, 18, 20,000 steps in a round.
Right.
And you watch these golfers, and yes, they're training. Yes, they're working hard. Yes, they're in the gym, and it's imperative for them too. Because I think back to my time with Harvey Penick. Harvey said when he had coached the University of Texas golf team for 32 years, and one of the things that Harvey made the comment, someone asked him one time what had been the biggest change he had seen, and Harvey said, well, when he began coaching at the University of Texas, he said he got all the non-athletes. And he said by the time he finished, the tight ends were playing golf. and that was
that's a bit of an evolution.
and that was the evolution of it. And we're seeing that now. I mean, you see Rory, you see obviously we talked about Brooks, Dustin Johnson, whatever.
You see it even in the junior game. You see how fast these kids are coming. You're seeing it. It's that's where I see it the most profound and just pronounced is how much better the athletes have gotten even in the last 10 years. That the kids that are coming in.
No question. And that's one of the things that I mentioned that, Hunter just moved over to River Crossing here in Spring Branch, which is just on the north side of San Antonio. And the reason that he's here is I want to do what he's done for us over in the Sugar Land market is get those young players moving healthy, great functional movement, great movement patterns, and really trying to develop those athletes at a much younger age and doing that. And I'm super excited about it. And we're going to incorporate that in all of our programming here. And I know watching what you do and your team, it's so important, as you know, to be strong and be healthy, most importantly. And I think it is the wave of the future. It's where we're headed. And certainly if we're not leading, well, we're following. And certainly we're trying to step out and do some things a little differently than other people in the industry.
For sure. So, and I guess where, like, if you had to pick the top, like, for somebody listening and maybe knows nothing about how the body's connected, like, top, like, two, top one or two things that you see or that you focus on with your players, like, you're talking about moving well and how that positively will impact their swing and their health. Where do you tend to go first? What do you look at?
Well, the one thing that I've learned, and like I said, I've learned all of this because I've been lucky. Ricky Stanzi and Gary Scheffler, who really are the face of GOTA right now, we've done a lot of work together. Last week, as a matter of fact, Ricky and Hunter and I spent probably an hour and 15 minutes on the phone talking about a move that I caught with Rory, just fast forwarding through a Golf Channel coverage, looking at the American Express tournament. And I saw him do something with his left foot that it was interesting, where the pressure goes and how it goes toward the front of the foot and everything. That's what I believe and what we've taught. But the one thing that my son told me a long time ago during his fitness journey, he said, Dad, he said, golf pros look at shoes.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you guys watch the shoes. And he said, in the fitness industry, we watch what's going on inside the shoe. And one of the things I learned through, and I do require all of my instructors to be certified now in the fitness world through GOTA. And I did that myself with a little bit of a stipulation. Ricky and Gary were kind enough. I said, look, I don't need the certification per se. I'm not going to advertise that I'm a fitness guy, because I quite frankly don't have the time, because of what I do with all my tour players, all my college players, my young high school players and everything, to ever pretend to learn the exercises that go with the movement and those types of things. I wanted to learn how it pertained to what I'm doing with what they're doing with the body. And one of the things I learned through that journey was, there's 26 bones, 33 joints, and over 100 tendons and ligaments in each foot.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of stuff there.
There's a little bit going on.
If there's not anything going on, okay. I can't really believe that the human body's got all of that inside each shoe for it to just, for the shoe to carry it around, keep it together. And
yeah, exactly.
That's the one thing in the golf industry that I really watch the foot, and I watch how the pressure moves. I'm very fortunate. I've got a 3D swing catalyst in my bay, and I use it extensively because it just tells us so much about what the body's doing, where it's going. And we talk about three things in the golf in our instruction here with Gathright Golf, and that's that, the foot is your connection to the ground. The time I spent with Harvey Penick, your hands are the only thing touching the club. Mm-hmm. And where your head moves controls a lot of what's going on below as well. So
yeah.
To keep it pretty simple, if you can watch those three things, you can figure out a whole lot in this industry, and doing it as many years as I've been fortunate enough to do.
For sure. Yeah. And I guess, what has the impact been as you've gotten players involved in GOTA and working with their bodies and being kind of aware of that? What's been the impact of that?
I'm seeing more and more speed. I'm very fortunate in I teach 5 players at Baylor, and one of them is a 5th-year senior. Johnny Kiefer is a wonderful player right now, and moving up the ranks in the PGA Tour U. The scores these young guys shoot, it's unbelievable. The 5 rounds previous to yesterday that he had played at Baylor since they've been back, he shot 63, 60, 66, 66, 67. And
that's a heck of a string of scores.
I don't care where you're playing. That's really low. But of those 5 guys, 4 of the 5 have a ball speed over 180 miles an hour.
Wow.
And it's just amazing to see. I've got 3 girls that I'm teaching right now, 2 in high school, 1 in college at the University of Arkansas. All of them are over 100 miles an hour with their club head speed. And we're just seeing more speed. We're seeing more movement. And better, safer movement on the golf course. And that's one of the things that we try to promote. It's going back to the steps that you take. If you sit poorly, you see so many of these younger kids, they move naturally. I'm sure you've seen this. Just you see the athlete walk in the gym and you're like, holy cow. At a very young age, you just know how athletic they are and how well they move. But with going to school, sitting in the desk, getting in shoes that maybe aren't the proper shoes for them at an early age, playing video games, propping their feet up on the couch, not being on the ground and moving like they were when they were younger. We notice a lot of those changes. So we really try to get them on the ground, try to get them back to basics, and then just get them moving more healthily. I think it's so important when you can get people to be aware of their movement patterns. And a lot of what we do begins at the foot. It's not just in the foot, but trying to learn to, number one, mobilize that ankle complex. You've really got two things that I look at in the golf swing. The ankle and the foot form a ball and socket platform. That's where a lot of rotational movement comes from in the golf swing. The femur and the pelvis form at the top of that, form another ball and socket for rotational movement. The knee's a hinge, series of tendons and ligaments that kind of hold the upper leg and the lower leg together and protected by the kneecap. So you see a lot of straightening. We hear in my industry all the time, people talk about straightening the knee on the backswing. Well, if you've got a good foot position at address, you're not overly wide. I see a lot of players, in my opinion, get way too wide and lose a little bit of mobility. You want to be wide enough to be as fast and as mobile as you can, but if you get too wide, you lose it. So we watch the width, but we really try to promote great work in the ankle and foot and great work in the hip, and that's going to get that right knee and right leg to extend and straighten the way it's supposed to. And then we try to pressure the left. If you're a right-handed player, try to pressure the outer ball of the left foot and let that be the pivot point from there. And then you get the ankle and the hip working on the other side, and you end up with a lot of speed and a lot of consistency and great rotational strength and very, most importantly, very safe movement, which that's the ultimate in what we're looking for.
And yeah, I mean, we see, all the similar things. If you can rotate through those every joint you've mentioned, like things tend to work a little bit better, right?
Absolutely.
When you have a player that isn't rotating well through those areas, what do you tend to do for them? Like, do you go immediately body? Is it swing changes? What do you guys look at?
Well, one of the things that we try to do, and you hear a lot in GOTA about groundwork, and I told one of my juniors the other day, I said, the reason that he asked me, so, well, I've kind of quit doing it because, I just do the groundwork. And I said, well, that's because you hadn't done the groundwork so we can get you in the gym and actually strengthen you as well. It's not that we're just trying to do groundwork, but until you really have done the groundwork and got the mobility in the ankle and in the hip and really got yourself into a good, healthy movement pattern, all you're doing, and I saw this a couple of years ago. Coach Mike McGraw at Baylor is one of my very dearest friends. Mike and I played tour school together in Dallas in the early 80s, and we've been friends for over 40 years now. And one of the most respected coaches in the industry, and someone that looks at it a little differently. And the GOTA guys and I went up and met with he and his trainer, and they've implemented a lot of the things that we've done there at Baylor. And one of the things that I've always appreciated Mike is his willingness to look beyond. And a couple of years ago, they had a football trainer that was actually working with the team during the off season, and they were doing a whole bunch of deadlifting. And when they got home for the Christmas break, everybody got on the technology. I was seeing all my guys at that point in time. I had 4 Baylor players, and 3 of the 4 had lost between 4 and 6 miles an hour of speed since the fall began. And I was like, there's got to be a pattern. What's going on? And then in walks Johnny Kiefer, who, oh, by the way, was an All-American. And when the trainer told Johnny to do a bunch of deadlifting, he goes, look, I'm not being disrespectful. I'll do something else, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And he had picked up about 1.5 miles in speed.
Yeah.
And I got in touch with Coach. We talked about it. We changed some of that. And then to give you an idea of what an innovator he is, Mike talked to the university. He went out and asked, if I raise the money, I don't know what's right. And this was his comment. He goes, I don't know what's right, but I know what we're doing's not.
Yeah,
He
awesome.
goes, if I go out and raise the money, can I hire my own fitness person and not work through the university? And they allowed him to do that. And
that's great.
I'm really thankful for that. He's done a great job with and Mike wants to leave his mark. And that's what I would tell you. You get to my age, Chris, I know you're a young guy, but I've been at this a long time. And certainly I heard a song today with Toby Keith's passing, talking about he had a conversation with Clint Eastwood on the golf course about, get up and don't let the old man in.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
one of the things that I know personally, I was having a lot of foot issues a few years ago. I was supposed to caddy for Mac Meisner in the USAM at Bandon Dunes of all places, which is not an easy walk to say.
No, it is not.
And I knew I was struggling with it. And Hunter gave me some simple exercises. What I like about some of the things we do, some of the groundwork I did on my bathroom floor for about 4 months. I've never felt better. I carried the bag 78.2 miles that week and never had an issue one. And so I think the most important thing is the safety of the movement, making sure you're doing the work. And that's in anything, in our industry, whether we're teaching golf or we're working on fitness and golf, they have to buy in, they have to do the work. And we're trying to instill it at such a young age that it becomes part of who they are, part of their system, as opposed to, oh gosh, I've got to go to the gym. No, you get to go to the gym so that you can do this for a long time at a real high efficiency level.
I could not have said it better myself, Bryan. That's 100%. 100%. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest challenges we run into is like golfers thinking that it's optional. It's like, if your body doesn't work, you can't play. And I love just listening to the way that you guys have integrated it and the philosophy you guys have around it. It's awesome to hear.
Well, the interesting thing, and like I said, I grew up in Texas. I grew up in a football family. I played football through 2 years of junior college, and then had the good fortune that Coach Hearn, actually, that I mentioned early on in the podcast, he started a golf team my sophomore year, and I ended up making all conference in golf of all things, and ended up going to Lamar University and playing golf down in Beaumont, Texas, and it was a career changer for me. I'd played high school golf. I'd always played golf in the off season, but it'd always been around football. But the one thing that we see, you'll see guys tape up things in football. You'll see them do things now on the professional level where the recovery is almost as big as the training aspect of it.
Yep.
But the thing that we don't talk about in golf as much is the little nagging things in golf are the ones that are so incredibly damaging to players, because everything has to work. And that's one of the things that we've talked about with Ricky and with Gary, with Goda. When you look at the cardiovascular system in the body, or any system, whether it's bones or in anything else, we look at the entire system, the neuro system and everything. But in training, so many times we tend to segment each muscle. We tend to break things down. And one of the things that we try to do with our training is we try to integrate it into the total movement pattern. We're trying to give you a 30,000 foot view of movement in the body. And that's the way the golf swing is. I always tell young coaches that come that try to watch me maybe teach, and that I'm trying to help become more educated in the game. We don't teach positions in golf. We teach motion.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do at Gathright Golf in the gym. We try to teach motion because ultimately that's what we're trying to do in our sport. We're trying to move the club as effectively and as efficiently as we can. And oh, by the way, I want you to knock the heck out of it. So I want you to hit it hard. And we want that movement to be safe, but we want it to be powerful and fast. And that's important.
Yeah, 100%, Brian. And I can't thank you enough for coming on today. This has been such an honor, and it just I love conversations with like-minded people. And like what you said, the golf swing the body is a system, and I think approaching it as a system and as motion together is so important. And but I think as we wrap today, any kind of final kind of tips for everybody listening, or if they get to the end and they're like, what's the one thing you want them to remember from today?
The one thing that I want is first and foremost, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about something that I have a passion for. I know the importance of the strength side of training. It's not, like I said, it's not that being, bigger, taller, faster, stronger doesn't make you. I want the athlete first and foremost, but I do want you to be healthy, and I want you to be safe, and so make sure that you're working with someone that can help you, because as I mentioned, it's still. I know Noda thinks this, because I do. The what ifs of you're talking about someone that was on a trajectory that like many have not seen in this sport, and it's certainly, you don't want to get hurt, so you want to make sure what you're doing is safe and healthy. But most important, there are no shortcuts in this game, and if you really if you're a parent that has a young player watching this podcast, or you're a young player wanting to excel, or you're in your 60s and thinking about playing golf past retirement and those types of things, I really want to encourage you, get in the gym, get with the trainer that has your interest at heart, and most importantly, do the homework both on and off the golf course, and enjoy playing this game as long as you can, because it's truly like no other.
Well said, Brian. Hey, where can people follow you, follow the Academy? What's the best way for people to kind of get in touch with you if they want to hear more from you?
First and foremost, it's you can Google me at www.bryangathrightgolf.com, and it's BRYANGATHRIGHT, golf like the sport. Or I'm at the club at River Crossing in Spring Branch, Texas, just on the north side of San Antonio, and at Sweetwater Country Club in Sugar Land, Texas. And I really appreciate the opportunity. And Chris, if you get down in the San Antonio area or in Houston, please let me know. I'd love to sit down with you and really spend some time. And certainly I also want to thank the GOTA guys, Ricky Stanzi, Gary Scheffler, certainly my son Hunter, and Arthur Robinson, for helping me on this journey. I certainly wouldn't. I would never have even thought about going on a fitness podcast and talking to anyone as knowledgeable as yourself about what goes on in the gym, had I not been on that journey with those guys. And I really appreciate their patience in teaching an old dog a few new tricks. And certainly thank you for letting me share a few thoughts today.
Yeah, for sure, Brian. You will definitely be my first call next time I'm down that way, and we'll be sure, for everybody listening, all the everywhere to find Brian will be in the show notes. So just go ahead and click on it, reach out, connect with one of the greats in the game. So thanks again, Brian, for the time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Chris, my pleasure. Thanks again. Have a great day.